the moderator of this session. I'm going to present Mr. Handel Times. Okay. Senior research fellow at Center for Eastern Studies from Warsaw. I worked with Georgian Journals this year for a report about the association agreement of Republic of Moldova and the EU. And it was my pleasure to be in his team of researchers. And you have the experts here, and I wish you a great day today about Romania. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Let me just say that it was my pleasure and the pleasure of all my people. Good day, everybody. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to join those welcomings on the second day of the forum. And once again, I would like to thank the organizers for the forum. And once again, I would like to thank the organizers for the event. We had a very fruitful discussion yesterday. I do hope, and I'm quite sure that we'll have at least as much interesting discussion today. We will start, because our today's panel is dedicated to Romania's perspective on the regional security context. We will start with the presentation of a paper by Michaela Fabrano, Vice President of the Experts for Security and Global Affairs. And then we will move to our speakers for their comments, for their insights on this topic. And unfortunately, as you can see, we got certain changes when it comes to the panelist. Alina is not with us today, and the same goes to Claudiu Lukacs. But fortunately, Octavian Milewski agreed to join the panel, so I'm pretty sure we'll have an interesting heated debate on the topic. So without further ado, Michaela, the floor is yours. If you could stick to about 15 minutes, thank you.
Thank you, Kamil. Thank you for joining us also today for our forum. My paper has focused on a few main issues. First of all, I presented the legal and framework that Romania should respect when it comes to its foreign policy and its domestic security. Also, the main institutions and actors involved in the process of deciding Romania's defense and security policy. And then the main threats, internal and external, that I identified in them. And then a few recommendations for Romania and also for the EU. So I started my paper with a few ideas about the society developed in the last couple of years in Romania. So Romania is one of the most supportive countries of the EU and the strongest support at the level of the society for EU membership. In the last 2 years, we saw an interesting decline in support for the EU membership. So today, only 56% of the Romanians support the EU membership. In the same time, as the case for other, it was 68.5% in 2007, and today it's 49%, almost 20% decrease. And that is the case regarding the support for the NATO and how NATO is seen in the region, as is the case with other countries in the region. NATO is seen as the main provider of security for Romania. This is the view of the population in the country. Regarding the main documents used for deciding Romania's defense and external policy, foreign policy, we have the NATO strategic concept in 2010 as one important document, and then the EU global strategy, for the European Union. As for the national level, we have the paper called National Strategy for the Defense of the Country, 2015-2019, called A Strong Romania in Europe and in the World. And also another law that regulated especially the role of the military and the defense framework in Romania. As for the main actors involved in this process, we have the president. According to our constitution, the president is the main actor when it comes to foreign policy, and the Supreme Council of National Defense. Regarding the security environment in which Romania needs to behave as a small power, as you probably already know, and as we also discussed yesterday, in the last decade we saw an increase in the number of threats and risks that the countries in the region and also Romania face. After the 2008 war in Georgia and after the 2014 illegal annexation of Crimea. So these are important actions and behaviors of other important and main actors in the region that Romania needs to take into account when it comes to its main goals in defense. As for the relation with other countries, not Republic of Moldova or Ukraine, I wanted to emphasize the fact that Romania supports the Western countries' effort to join the EU and also Turkey's application for membership. Also, regarding the countries in the Eastern Partnership, in order to narrow our discussion, Romania seems to support especially the countries that have signed association agreements. This is probably due to the fact that as a small country, we don't have that many resources, so we need to prioritize the countries that we will support. So I think this was the main criteria used in order to choose the countries. And regarding the internal dimension of Romania's evolution in the last years, we have, as you are sure that you already know, the problem of corruption and weak institutions. So regarding this problem, as we saw especially in the last 2 years, the things don't seem that stable here in our country. Therefore, it's very difficult to try to present this image outside of the country due to the fact that we have so many problems inside. So this is one thing that only decreases Romania's, let's say, possibility to attract or to export its model, although at the beginning, after 2007, a few years ago, that could be presented as an important argument for how Romania evolved as an EU country. Also, we can identify some activities regarding the propaganda of other countries, of other main actors in Romania. And I identified a few actors, and I think that also yesterday you mentioned the referendum for the dedication of the family, yes. And we have this movement of coalition for the family that doesn't support that much the democratic values, and as also someone already said, I think it was a German politician, in order to have democracies, you need democrats. This is very important to be very careful and be very prepared to respond to all the activities that could put a limit to human rights and civil liberties. Regarding the military security, as a NATO member, of course, Romania needs to develop and be able to support the things that decided for when it became a NATO member. That's why in the last 2 years especially, we've seen a lot of activities in the area, and Romania managed to allocate 1,000%, almost 1,000% of its GDP for the reform of defense sector. One of the goals of our document called National Defense Strategy in 2015-2019 was to consolidate Romania's credibility. And as I already mentioned, I think this wasn't the case. After 2015, I think we can see a regress regarding Romania's credibility in the region. As for other initiatives in the region, at the regional level, we have the Bucharest format that was initiated by Romania in 2015, and its main goal was to consolidate NATO eastern flank and to increase the informal contacts at the level of policymakers and decision makers. And in April 2018 was the first parliamentary summit of this format, Bucharest format. I think it was an important step because It emphasized the importance of parliament, of the institution of parliament, not only in Romania but also in other countries in the region. And as we already know, the parliament is the most important institution in democracy. So I think this was a good step, but we'll see what will happen in the future. Another topic was the cybersecurity problem. Here we have a few initiatives also at the private and at the public level. For example, Romania, together with Poland, Hungary, and the National Company initiated participated at the global conference on cyberspace in 2015, and the government initiated this initiative. I think it is also an important and significant step in this area. And as you, again, already probably know, Romania is involved in NATO Industry Cyber Partnership and 100 Plus Fund on Cyber Defense for Ukraine, Romania being the lead nation in this initiative. Now I will discuss about the economic security, because the idea which I started this paper was that we need a strong economy in order to support and to defend the country. Therefore, I will stress the following facts. The most important goal for Romania is to become a member of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. As for the involvement of Romania in developing and helping other countries in the region, because after we became an EU member country, we needed to have this office for development. Romania chose a few countries that benefited from funds. Those countries were Moldova, Turkey, Serbia, Ukraine, and the Syrian Arab Republic. As for the economic internal situation, things are a little bit strange, let's say so, because we have a new fiscal code, but the paper was written actually in September, so 2 months ago. But in the meantime, since January 2018 and August 2018, the code has been modified 5 times, and since then it also been modified at the beginning of 2019 in January. Therefore, it's very unlikely to say that we have a stable fiscal framework for the people that are working in this area. We need to have, of course, predictability in order to plan their business. So this change of the fiscal code is, I think, very problematic for the business sector and should be taken into account by the decision makers. Regarding the foreign investment in the country, together with Latvia, Estonia, Greece, and Spain, Romania saw one of the greatest increases of investment in the last decade, 12.5%. Also, due to the weak infrastructure, some companies that work in the country have problems, as the Blue Renault in Leuven and Ford the factory in Sibiu. This, of course, can be the effect of these activities is that you have as a public institution fewer taxes that you can collect for the people that do business in your country. So the medium and long term this will have, I think, important effects if Romania will not be able to develop its infrastructure. Another problem is the internal level is the decrease of the population and the poverty rate. Romania lost in the last 2 decades almost 5 million citizens. Also, at the same time, Romania has probably the greatest poverty rate in the region, I mean, EU country in the region. 25% of the population therefore lives with less than $5.2 per day. Therefore, I think it's very unlikely that they will have access to medical and educational services. And of course, this in the economic domain, this will transform in lower taxes to the budget and less likely profile of a consumer, because it's very likely to have a consumer rate or important consumer rate. The people will have money to buy things. As for the general recommendations for Romania, of course, strengthening the institution, increase transparency in the activity of the public institutions, decreasing the inequalities between the regions, and continuing the support for Moldova's urbanization as a priority for Romania's foreign policy. I think, of course, this overlaps with other recommendations that you can see in the public space. A general recommendation for the EU institutions. Until the next year, we already know that we won't have Eastern Partnership Summit, and it will be a very busy year probably for the EU due to the Brexit and the European parliamentary elections. But anyway, the Eastern neighborhood should remain at least as high on the agenda of the EU actors and institutions. And of course, to address the internal problems of the EU in order to maintain and probably, in the best case scenario, to increase its soft power in the region. So, this is all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mihaela. As I said before, I'd like to open the floor for our speakers for comments and insights. I would like to ask speakers to stick to 7 minutes tops time limit, and it's not only because of the program, but also because certain panelists are leaving right after the time, and they don't want to miss their flight. So we will start with Silviu Nădă, the Director of Global Studies Center at the University of Sibiu. Floor is yours, please.
Thank you very much, Daniel. My presentation is structured into 3 parts. Efforts and achievements in terms of security and defense policy in Romania. The second one is based on security challenges, and the third one about projections and recommendations for Eastern Partnership of countries. So, first of all, I would like to add that the security perspectives for Romania are both linked to hard and soft issues. So Romania has a pivotal role in the Black Sea, and is aiming to project more stability and security in the region by containing challenges and deterrence, but also with a focus of reducing the impact of the after effects at a larger region from the Black Sea. So Romania takes part in different frameworks, and it is also the initiator of different regional projects. Maybe you know that since 2015, Romania assumed 2% of the GDP for the defense sector for a decade, and Romania also, like Mihaela said before, demonstrated like a leading role with Poland in shaping the B9 format, the Bucharest 9 format, which is a tool for the eastern flank allies that are aiming to integrate a common vision in terms of security and defense for the region. Also, Romania is aimed in terms of defense policy to integrate in the Black Sea area on the similar concept with the Baltics, the same logic of operational activities. So, in the line with the NATO Wales Summit, the declaration, Black Sea region remains an important component of the Euro-Atlantic security, and Romania put a lot of effort to keep the Black Sea as a priority at the level of the alliance. Also, Romania was oriented on building social resilience in the region, also connected to the Western Balkans, and had a strong focus on protecting some states by, let's say, some vulnerabilities from the inside, like the issue of terrorism. Also, in terms of foreign policy, in my opinion, I think that Romania offers the prerequisites for reducing the leverage of using the energy dependence as a political tool to more energy integration and diversification of energy sources in the region. Another point is that Romania has much more a cooperative approach in the Black Sea and is trying to integrate the respect for the rule of law, the international law, mutual development and support. It supports the legitimate aspirations of the neighbors. So, there are some landmarks. Romania has a strategic partnership with the United States, and we have the presence of US military bases in Romania, the missile defense system. So its posture in the Black Sea and in the eastern neighborhood is to send a credible message for deterrence in the region. So I would add that we participate in multinational exercises and an important focus is to have a permanent presence of the allies in the Black Sea. We have air policy, but for the next step, there is important to have also permanent naval presence in the Black Sea. So also it's important to mention that there is a human intelligence, HUMINT NATO Center for Excellence in Romania established, and also a new Military Command Center, NATO Military Command Center in Romania. In terms of soft security and geo-economic projects, we can mention the 3CZ initiative, an important tool for economic and infrastructure cooperation. Also, Romania and Poland are promoters of this project, and also President Trump is a supporter of it. And also, maybe in terms of soft issues, to mention the Danube region strategy. Of course, there are different frameworks inside the European Union, including PESCO and NATO-EU cooperation for combating hybrid threats. So in terms of security challenges, I would like to add something different that was said yesterday, because there were many things added and I tried to be a little bit different. So I think that a problem is the lack of structure of the international order. Now we assist in a way to a different global environment. So those ideas are leading to the concept of strategic autonomy to different European members. But in fact, also from my opinion, it's linked. This idea is strongly linked to the lack of European maturity in terms of defense. So maybe we understand that in a way we receive a message that there is no need for validation in international relations anymore. So I will reflect more on this aspect. So maybe for that moment we see more unilateral approaches around this concept than multilateral that is desired. And a new question is coming. What if we combine strategic autonomy with extremism, nationalism, or with, for example, far-right ideology? Are we turning back into the history? Are we prepared to manage this kind of possible unfortunate situation? Does Russia understand the side effects of its active measures? because even Russia could be affected by some of those processes in Europe. Another issue that was raised yesterday, it was neutrality. So I think, in my opinion, that in an interdependent world, neutrality is not an option. Of course, that even if we address to like general concepts like globalization, usually it doesn't work. It's like being exposed to a contagious phenomena and you don't get support from the network. You don't have access to a support network. So even the principles of the need to know and need to share are hardly achieved. Another issue and security challenge for the Eastern Partnership area, I think it's the strong focus for hyper-militarization of the region. So I see it as a risk because narrow visions based particularly on military force represents some zero game with a lose-lose situation. Of course, we must look for alternatives. Another issue is linked to hegemonic projections in the region, and especially in the eastern neighborhood. I think there are counterproductive because, of course, you mentioned yesterday about cyber threats, about info operations, different sort of tactics to support nationalist or extremist groups. It could generate, I think, a reverse effect that even Russia wouldn't anticipate and could be strongly affected on a medium and maybe a long term. And I would like to add this like a small conclusion. Extremist views generate extreme solutions. So we must pay attention to this issue. So, but there is a regional actor. Do we find a regional actor in the eastern neighborhood able to offer a sustainable model to follow? I think this could be an important question. Energy and military is not enough for the Eastern Partnership countries. So unfortunately, Russia's behavior led to the degradation of the region in the last period. So now I will address to the third part of my presentation, last part. So I think the Eastern Partnership program should be a tool aimed to bring neighboring states closer to the functional core of Europe. I think this should be the main focus for this program. What would be or should be the profile of Eastern Partnership mechanism beneficiary? Another question is rising, what are the aspirations of the Eastern Partnership countries? Do we share or do they share the same values and preoccupations? Do they feel Europeans? If the answer is yes, then achieving statecraft and the rule of law is imperative from my point of view. So this would be maybe an important chapter in the Eastern Partnership mechanism. Addressing corruption also isn't possible without a strong and educated civil society, which is, from my point of view, an antibody to prevent illiberal government, the appearance of illiberal, proliferation of illiberal governments in the region. So also addressing to civil society and educating civil society is very important. We talk about energy, and we talked yesterday about energy, but we neglect environment. The European Union published a report, an interesting report that highlighted a projection for the next 10 to 20 years of rising the global temperature with 2 Celsius degrees. And this is an important factor because it would generate an important social, demographic impact, but also a military one. And the region would not be excluded from those effects. So I think the Black Sea area should have also a focus, and the Eastern Partnership should have at least concern about environmental projects in the region. So if the temperature is increasing at the global level, then we will be placed in a worst case scenario. That's why I think we have also additional issues than the specific military advocacy. So the radiography of the region shows that Eastern Partnership countries have common vulnerabilities, and they face common threats. So I think that there is an option to build a common agenda. There are prerequisites for structuring a common agenda, but there are also different specificities to each country in terms of vulnerabilities, and there should be also, from my point of view, a bilateral approach between the European Union and each Eastern Partnership country. My proposal is that the next step should be, or could be, identifying common grounds for a regional agenda. It could be easier for Romania to support Eastern Partnership countries from the position of the President of the EU Council. Reflect on 3 or 4 ideas, like linking opportunities in the region, beneficial interdependence, consensus, manage, prevent, and counter common threats, address specifically to different vulnerabilities. More coherence and structure will help the EU to understand your needs and get closer to the functional core of Europe. So I think there are few issues like create a regional identity is needed and connect it to the EU mindset. The mechanism would be more productive. Also to improve institutionalized dialogue. I think it's a recommendation, a good recommendation, to build a trust network. Romania advanced before through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs this concept through Bogdan Orescu, His Excellency, this concept of the trust network, and find synergy to rebuild the area, to rebuild the region. If we are not part of the process, we can build a common future. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Silvio. Now I'd like to pass the microphone to Claudio Di Gerato, researcher at the National Institute for Study of Totalitarianism of the Roman Academy. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Camille. Good morning. Thank you, Mihaela, for the introduction. So I will not have a structured presentation, just a few reactions to some of the issues highlighted by you and also by Silvio. Well, for me, our regional policy, it's more a combination of bilateral relations and a national promotion strategy of some regional issues in international organizations. So we are very good in bilateral relations with Moldova, with Caucasian countries, with Western Balkans. And in the same time, we are very good in promoting these regional issues in EU and NATO. So if you look for a classic standard model of regional policy, you will not find in the Romanian foreign policy. That's my point of view. It's probably it's on the opposite side of what has been presented before. And this has some advantages because we are more flexible than others. So we can combine more bilateral agreements and understandings, and in the same time we can present regional issues apart from our obligation in bilateral frameworks. That's good for Romania because this is the way, and that was the solution to promote the Black Sea region security issues for decades, for almost 20 years, and that was good. So we have now a good and very well presented label of the Black Sea security region and all the things associated with the region, but in the same time, it doesn't say anything about, and we don't have a lot of progress in this area. Despite the Black Sea synergy strategy, despite the Danube strategy and so on, in fact, we are witnessing a lot of instability, a lot of insecurity, and this is going to be the same story, and we are going to do the same work on the same manner by bilateral relations and by promoting these issues in international organizations, powerful organizations like EU and NATO. Another major plus for Romania was that we managed to develop our strategic partnership with the United States as an important tool for the entire region. That was another major achievement, and this partnership will develop not only the military dimension, but also the more important is the logistical and the organizational dimension, which is important. Constanța is going to be an important regional hub for transportation. Not only the military dimension is important here, but also the entire concept for Constanța with air base, navy facilities, and sea facilities, and multimodal transportation will be important for the entire region. So it's a kind of backup also for the entire southern flank, in case that Turkey will provide us more surprises than we expect. So it's important for this. But there is another level of our regional policy which has modest results, which is our dialogue with Russia and Turkey. So among these two regional powers, Romania has no influence. That's my assessment. It's we have half of the Black Sea. It's highly militarized by Russia, and another half it's well controlled and managed by the Turkish Navy. That's a major challenge for us. Why? Because in the future, as Mihaela also very well highlighted, the economics is more important for the region than the military cooperation and so on. So we need secure transportation. We need safety networks among all the riverine countries, and that's a challenge. We don't have results. We don't have concepts. I mean, there are some projects in the Black Sea security economic cooperation, but also in the three seas we have some attempts. We selected some projects, but again they are very modest because we are just at the beginning. And I saw the project selected on the last summit, on the Three Seas Initiative Summit, but some of them are old, some of them are prolonged or postponed. All the European projects and related with the European network of transportation, and Romania was and is still not able to keep up with the calendar and the schedules proposed to Brussels. Speaking about the military dimension, of course, Russia is the major source for challenges in this region. But of course, we have the local interethnic problems in different areas. We should probably sometimes compare with the Baltic region and to understand better the situation in the Black Sea. Here we have a combination of the persistent conventional threats combined with the hybrid and unconventional threats, and everything is under or above the existing frozen conflicts. So it's a very complex cake of problems, and so you should, when you have to deal with all these complex of issues, you have to approach comprehensively everything from the beginning, and not in a fragmented way. So now we are still charting the map of all these risks and threats. In the Baltic area, you have just a conventional risk and threat combined with some hybrid and propaganda strategies coming from Russia. And so it's a little bit more simplified, the situation. You don't have too many interethnic tensions in the northern flank. You don't have, let's say, weak societies, weak states, failed regimes, and so on. But here it's a totally different picture. Well, probably in the next 10 years or 15 years, Romania will have a better military capabilities, a better navy, and a better air force, and a better air defense, and so on. But we don't know if we have a better strategy to combat the hybrid threats. That's the major problem. So we have to take time. We have to understand that it takes time to develop a new discipline, a new way of understanding, and a new strategy for hybrid threats. And this is not going to happen just on the national level. So Romania is not in the position to do this alone. We need all our partners from Eastern Partnership around us, because we have to understand that sometimes the proxy is more important than the source. So it's better to have a common strategy, and I welcome also civil proposals for developing some common concepts and having a common picture. And the common picture is important not only for the military guys, but also for the politicians and the diplomats. Last but not least, I think the energy security will remain the most important economic issue for this area. Romania has some poor performance in this area. We still have a lot of challenges for developing our legal framework. We want to do more, but for sure we have to change our economic strategy in the next years. And again, everything is connected. So if you look carefully at our energy debate, internal energy debate, we are still in the old-time paradigm about Romania, which is an energetic island, isolated, self-sufficient, and well prepared to resist against the Russian attempts to attract us in their energy diplomacy. So we have a major problem to change our mentality, not to be an energy island, not to be isolated in this among these major projects. And probably it's more important the East than the West in this debate, because if a border nation like Romania shows this signal of isolation and lack of perspective, probably our partners from the Eastern Partnership will also follow us, believing that probably this is the best way to preserve and to resist to all the temptations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this comprehensive presentation. Now we'll go to the final panelist today, Octavian Milewski, representing Polish Science. And let me just also add that Octavian is a good friend of the Center for Eastern Studies. So Octavian, what's your perspective? What's your view on the issue of security?
Thank you, Cameron. My participation came as a pleasant surprise. I learned about it yesterday. So I will also have a semi-structured presentation, so to speak. I did think how to start, and my starting point would be actually identity. The identity, and I was asked to speak about the foreign policy options of Romania, as they should be from now on, maybe. But my first thought was, in that moment when I learned about the presentation, that this here in Romania, foreign policy of Romania was very much informed by an identity narcissism, a moment of narcissism called the centenary. Romania thinks of itself as a state which, through this event, this cycle, as a state that starts its geopolitical ideal in 100 years ago. And I disagree with this point of view, because this point of view or this perception wrongly informs Romania's foreign policy options. I'm just sitting in front of the statue of Carol I, Hohenzollern, the Sigmaringen, who built the modern Romania starting with the first half or the middle or the second half of the 19th century. So Romania is a bit more than what it tries to project in terms of its identity and strategic identity as well. When Romania started to form itself, and it was a construction that lasted for at least 3 generations till the interwar period, it started with a very strong bias in favor of the West. And this has persisted until today, and it's going to persist. I then, after having this thought, I went to the speech of the president in late January this year at the reunion, at the diplomatic reunion, of the Romanian diplomats, and tried to observe what were the main constant points of Romania's foreign policy and how Romania would project itself in the future. So what is constant again, so this prism is the triad. The whole triad is USA, the strategic partnership with the USA, its consolidation within as a EU member who keeps close to the hardcore of the EU. This is very important, and of course a specific benign constructive role within NATO. This is the holy triad, nobody touches that. But when it comes to Romania's policy to the east, then we start with issues of identity, which are not necessarily benign. And in this context, I would speak about Romania's foreign policy fixation, I'm sorry. And this fixation is called Republic of Moldova. And as you know, this term fixation starts with the Freudian philosophy of a child's personality formation. If the child learns correctly to use the toilet in the right moment, then during its life, when the child becomes mature, it has a smooth personality. If it has issues in this moment of its personality creation, then it will be a personality with difficulties. And from this point of view, if Romania chooses to imagine its identity as strategic identity and its childhood as starting 100 years ago, then it is wrong. Because it will motivate its later identity, strategic identity, and its personality. And from there starts the problem of Republic of Moldova, which, frankly speaking, it has always been marginal in the strategic projection of Republic of Moldova, of Romania. So this fixation on Republic of Moldova doesn't allow Romania to see the real game in town in Eastern Europe, in Central Eastern Europe, and this game in town is focused on Ukraine. Romania has not produced a breakthrough in relations with Ukraine so far. With all my respect for my Ukrainian friends and colleagues here, It's good that they are here after a few years. On the think tanking level, the relations have developed very much. While in terms of real deliverables, the level of relations is pretty poor and still very slowly improving. Of course, Romania is also saved here by the mistakes of its Western neighbors, Hungary in particular. So on the background of the mistakes that Hungary does in Ukraine, Romania looks very good. Romania, and this is also motivated by this relationship and its bandwagoning of US and NATO. So this is a very good factor a positive factor in Romania's creation of its formation of its preferences and policies towards Ukraine. It's because the identity issues that Romania still perceives as having them with Ukraine are still very deep and not solved. I mean, through these concrete policies on citizenship, reacquisition for irrespective of ethnicity, for people who live in the former Greater Romania, infrastructure, military relations, and so on. In spite of all the good improvements like cyber defense and more intensive contacts on this level. So I would say that for the moment, Romania is saved by circumstances, positive circumstances. Romania has been a very lucky country in the last 100 years. In terms of deep geopolitics. But at the same time, it loses a window of opportunity in constructing a triadic relationship with Ukraine and Poland. If we look carefully on the map, we have a 100 million force, aggregated force, correctly formed, correctly constructed, and correctly organized. It can stand basically any threat, strategic threat in the region. So far, the Romanian decision makers haven't been able to prioritize such a strategic construction of these priorities. I won't touch on B9 because that has been done by my colleagues in the panel. Departing a bit from the policy on Ukraine, Romania has started still it has understood its mistake on focusing too much on the wider Black Sea region projects. It came late, it didn't understood in the right moment that this is not a game in town anymore since 2009. It jumped into the Eastern Partnership game a bit late, but it got it right. Unfortunately, it didn't get the moment of its spinning down moment after the conflict, the start of the conflict in Ukraine. Here I would say that this issue hasn't been solved. Romania doesn't know what comes after Eastern Partnership because Eastern Partnership is totally blocked at this point. And Romania is in this search of regional projects that can promote its interests. One such a project would be TSI, the Three Seas Initiative, which again Romania is only studying at this point. And a major hurdle in this respect is its poor infrastructure. Romania remains to be the poorest country in EU in terms of highway development and connectivity with the West, and also connectivity of the country inside. The country is divided from the point of view of connectivity between the West and Southwest and the East. There is no highway between Iași and the Bucharest. The Carpathians is still a mental barrier. And because of this underdevelopment, Romania is perceived by its partners, Poland, the V4, as a country that doesn't meet the expectations. There is an intensive debate, for instance, within the expertise circles who inform a lot the politicians in Poland about how to make Romania move from this old paradigm of internal disconnection between Bucharest and Transylvania, and the rest of the country. Because through development of these parts of the connectivity between these parts of the country with the rest, Romania will be it will be much easier for Romania to reach to its partners in Central Europe and in the East, with Moldova and Ukraine. The infrastructure is totally, and TSI is such a project which we will see if it can, it will reach those who form the opinions with the decision makers. Speaking of the same search for itself in foreign policy and foreign policy formation, foreign policy option formations, Romania is basically, and with that I will try to wrap up, in this moment of not finding a place for itself yet, not certain. I recently was watching it's a term coined by a Bulgarian journalist, the Orthodox War, which provoked a smile, of course, because that's a regional platform between Romania, Serbia, Bulgaria, and Greece. Frankly, these countries are not speaking the same foreign policy code. They have different perceptions about the relations with the West, within the European Union, and so on. And it just speaks about the uncertainty of Romania and its elites in terms of how to form its own identity long term. So the old dilemma, the decade dilemma of Romania, what comes after our Euro-Atlantic integration, what is our country project, is somewhere in the air. It's between threatening or not unification with Moldova, between being a leader at the Black Sea, which is not into Romania's powers, frankly speaking. It's between becoming a Central European authentic player, and it's between developing with very many question marks a place for itself in relation and as a bridge to the perceived East, Ukraine, and possibly the Balkans. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Octavian. Well, so we had 4 very interesting presentations with different point of views, and now I would like to open the floor for the discussion. We still have a considerable amount of time.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much in particular for the paper on Romania. Even if I haven't seen it, your presentation was concise, comprehensive, very impressive. I'm very much looking forward to it. But I'm not going to comment on Romania. My comments go more to Silvio Nate from a practitioner's perspective. I liked your formulation as a goal for the Eastern Partnership to bring partner states to the functional core of Europe. I've never heard it before. I think it's very good. And in the next sentence you said, if they want so. I doubt if there's a general wish to it. You said the 3 Cs initiative is important. I attended the first summit. I followed a little what came out of the second summit. The 3 Cs initiative is not important because the summit was held in Romania. Sorry, this is sarcastic. The focus is on very few important topics, but it is very technical, and I like very much your analysis of the projects, which is exactly right. In this 105, 110, whatever projects, most of them exist, have never been started. Not much is new, and of the new, I think still nobody knows who will finance it. Regional identity of the partner states. I think this is exactly what is not going to happen. Because why did the European Union start an approach of diversification? Because we realized we cannot deal with them en bloc as we did 10 years ago. So a regional identity between the six countries, I don't have to mention them. I don't see upcoming. I don't see any one of them would like to have or share. Another sarcastic comment, if I may, because today I'm sarcastic. First, you mentioned the glorious cooperation between Romania and the United States, and 2 minutes later you spoke of hyper-militarization. I don't put it together, I just wanted to point it out. Just one more. I like very much Octavian's characterization of Moldovan fixation, Romanian fixation on Moldova. I don't go on further on. And on Romania's role in Eastern Partnership, we heard yesterday a few ideas on for the presidency time. We'll see, I think there are some ideas. I would completely disagree with Octavian when he said the EAP is totally blocked. I don't see it. We are signing texts more and more. We sign partnership priorities. We hope to sign partnership priorities with Moldova. We signed some with Azerbaijan. We hope for agreement arrangements with Moldova and then Belarus. We have summits with others. And as we said, summit, I don't know if somebody said the summit will be held next year. It will not be. It will be, sorry, then I got it right. Sorry, I was wrong.
Thank you. Yes, I think that some of you would like to react to the comments, but we will maybe gather a few other questions. Yes, please.
Thank you. My question goes to Silvio Mate, but if other panelists would like to address, I would be only grateful. So probably the question does not have concrete answer, but I will try. If in the relations and attitude of Romania towards Eastern Partnership countries, I'm asking specifically about Romania, not about EU in general, because it is different for different EU countries. How would you rank the priorities? Art security, energy, economy, environment, values. What do you think is the most important in Romania's attitude towards Eastern Partnership countries? Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank Octavian for his brutally straightforward opinion on Romania. But please tell me, what is wrong with Romania not focusing on Ukraine, which is getting already so much attention from other parts, and instead doing what is Romania's comparative advantage, working with Moldova. Comparative advantage, working with Moldova. I think that's a perfectly good foreign policy. To Claudio, you mentioned that proxy sometimes is more important than source. Can you elaborate on that, please? And a question to everyone. I'm really curious whether you could elaborate or just share your thoughts on what. Let me start by this. A grand strategy would require grand resources, which Romania doesn't have. I mean, I'm not Romanian at my heart, so I'd love Romania to do grand strategies, but that's not possible. So then the question would be, what else should we do? And Moldova comes as a natural choice. So I'd like to ask your opinion on what is Romania's strategy towards the Transnistrian conflict, if there is a strategy at all? And if there is one, what do you think it should be in addressing that conflict? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So maybe we'll close the session and then we'll try another round because we've got a lot on our plate. So we'll start with Silvio, I think. Maybe?
Thank you. So I would like to add a few remarks and maybe, I don't know, explanations to distinguished ambassador. First, when I refer to regional identity, my focus was not on in terms of culture. So regional identity was mainly addressed to a unified agenda and like a policy making tool. Regarding the high militarization, due to the US-Romania strategic partnership, I don't think Romania had provoking behavior in the Eastern neighborhood. And as a third mention, I would like to say that the Eastern Partnership countries should be aware that at least for 6 months next year, Romania will be in the position at the presidency of the EU Council, and I invited effectively them to reflect on common opportunities they could raise to improve the regional growth. Regarding the second question about the priorities of Romania for the Eastern Partnership countries, I could express only my own view, not an official view, but extracting from the original policy documents, I would highlight at least three dimensions. Involvement for critical infrastructure development in the Eastern neighborhood, economy and interconnection of business projects with digitalization, and promoting the rule of law and anti-corruption.